All right, and welcome to the Wrestling Shed Podcast. We're back. Thanks for listening, folks. My name is Chad Everard, and I'm here joined with my co-host, Craig Scott. Craig, how are you today?
Good evening, and we are back after a
little bit of a sabbatical.
A bit of a long time absence, but
2 years, actually. If you are a long-time listener or a follower of the Wrestling Shed, you know that we had a podcast probably a couple years ago. This is probably the biggest week we've had in pro wrestling in a long, long time. And that's probably the main reason why we got this podcast back and kicking.
Absolutely. There's more things to talk about, so it's more fun to talk about things when there's actually interesting things going on within the industry. For a long time, wrestling, again, WWE in particular, when we're talking about your New Japans and whatnot, there has been quality wrestling ongoing for the last couple of years, of course.
Absolutely.
But on a mainstream level, where you're talking WWE and to a lesser extent your TNA Impact, it really has been on a bit of a downswing for the last few years, really. So it's good to have an injection of lifeblood into wrestling that's coming up right now, this week in particular. So hopefully it's going to lead to if not a boom period, at least a period of increased attention, both on a creative level and on a overall public level.
Yeah, I think the interest level is actually increasing, especially I've noticed in the Wrestling Shed. The fans, people haven't been really following along as much, like you said, over the past little while, maybe a year, a little bit over a year, but lately it seems like things are heating up, so it's good. I look forward to having this podcast and having a little chat about the things that are going on in the pro wrestling world. So that's what we got going on here today, and this is our first episode, we'll say, Season 1, Episode 1. We're going to go through some tidbits, some news updates, some rumors. Later on, we're probably going to go down through what happened last night with Monday Night Raw, the AEW Wednesday Night War, of course, and maybe we'll delve into that mailbag a little bit later on as well. Put up something on that Wrestling Shed group on Facebook. Join it now if you're not on there. Search it up on Facebook. We're also on Twitter at Wrestling Shed. And you can follow us on Instagram as well at The Wrestling Shed. So, Chris Egg, let's start it off with a little bit of news today.
Well, some breaking news just over the last little bit there. There's some talk that former UFC World Heavyweight Champion CAIN VELASQUEZ could be making his way to the WWE. He's not officially retired yet from UFC MMA, but at the same time he has permission to pursue his professional wrestling career, and he has been doing so with several well-received matches in Mexico. He has actually got a show coming up on the 13th of October. He's working in LA on a big show for AAA promotion, but there is talks that he has been in very serious talks with the WWE. Now this is interesting because of course CAIN VELASQUEZ did defeat and knock out Brock Lesnar in the first round to take the UFC world title from him.
He did.
Back in 2010.
For sure. And we'll get into what happened with REY MYSTERIO, of course, last night on Raw a little bit later on. But continuing on, CAIN VELASQUEZ, that, in my opinion, that would be a interesting acquisition, to say the least. Yeah, I don't know. I'd be down with CAIN VELASQUEZ coming in for a big money match against Brock, maybe at a WrestleMania down the road.
Oh, for sure. Like you said, I don't think he's catch can wonder. So I don't think he's a great pro wrestler by any means.
No.
But he's somebody who's athletically gifted and could easily slide in there.
For sure. It's like a blockbuster name that you could have that WrestleMania match, a one-off even.
No.
All right, another big story from this past week. According to Pro Wrestling Insider, multiple sources have confirmed that former WWE champion CM Punk was at Fox Studios for a meeting consulting about an on-air role with WWE Backstage show. That's coming up on Fox Sportsnet, November 5th at 11 o'clock Eastern. So, What do you think of that?
I think it's very interesting indeed. I'm one of the people who's a big CM Punk fan and has been. Yes, I do think that his time has kind of passed, and I wouldn't be surprised if he never came back. But at the same time, I always had a soft spot for Punk, even though he could be arrogant or whatever the case may be. That was part of his charm, almost.
Yeah, he's notorious for being a little bit of a dickhead.
Yeah, dickhead.
Right?
That's his
call it
gimmick.
like it is.
It's kind of his gimmick.
That's exactly what it is.
Sour bastard kind of guy. But but as for a performer in wrestling and interesting to listen to and watch, he was one of the greats of our generation for sure. So I'd be all for him coming back in any form, because I really do feel that if he were to come back for this Fox TV program, he's not, because there's been talk that, well, he's not going to be working for WWE, he's going to be under a Fox contract, so whatever the case may be. They're not going to hire him to work on the show if he's going to be negative towards the product, or if he has no degree of like or interest in the product. Why on earth would he go and try out for basically a program that's based upon wrestling?
Well, it all comes down to money, really.
Absolutely, for sure. I mean, to call a spade, his UFC career is not going anywhere. He failed at UFC, and I mean, again, all props to him for going out there and doing what he wanted to do and trying his best. But he tried his best, and he was not good enough, and that's kind of end of that. So he needs to find something else to do.
CM Punk is a hot commodity. Let's, call a spade here. And I think Fox sees that, and they definitely want to sign up a person that brings a little bit of a cachet, a little bit of personality like Punk does. So we'll see what happens. I mean, fingers crossed. I'm a CM Punk fan. I hope, we see him and Renee Young, and Booker T apparently is going to be one of the other co-hosts. So it's going to be interesting to see. Not that we're lacking in any WWE or wrestling programming in general, but I think this little WWE Backstage show, I don't know, it could be pretty cool.
Well, it sounds like it's going to be a extended version of the old Talking Smack program that was a couple years back, I guess.
Highly successful on the WWE Network.
Right, but very popular, and kind of Miz rekindled his career when he kind of cut the promo on Daniel Bryan on Talking Smack. Mm-hmm. And it was all kind of off the cuff type of stuff with Renee Young and Daniel Bryan hosting the show, and they were kind of not kayfabing it, but at the same time were playing the kayfabe. It was a very entertaining program, so if it's something along those lines, I think it'll be a combination of that and the Aftermath program that sort of comes on Sportsnet right now.
Yeah.
It's going to be something along those lines.
A little insider gossip in a way, but still kind of keeping in the kayfabe.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like on the corporates, they're not going to get into too much dirt, I don't think.
No.
It's going to be approved WWE kind of, like NBA inside stuff.
Yeah. We'll see what happens with this.
So going into the lighter side of things just a little bit here, Chris Jericho, current AEW World Heavyweight Champion, has been garnering a bit of a reputation for being a little sarcastic, a little bit witty on Twitter and on social media in general. So earlier this week, Chris Jericho put it out there. I'm just going to leave this here. Walter equals worst wrestling name ever. # just saying. So Chris Jericho, not a big fan of the ring general.
Stirring the pot, as it were.
Stirring the pot a little bit. Again, it's the AEW guys seem to like taking shots at the NXT crew, which is kind of funny when you think about it. They're kind of aiming at the lower levels, but at the same time, the interesting part about that is I would have agreed with Chris Jericho that Walter was the worst name I've ever heard for a professional wrestler.
Well, on paper, I mean, you look at it and it's like, I don't see a world champion called Walter.
But yeah, there's two things to keep in mind. One is the pronunciation. It's Walter.
Walter?
Doesn't exactly jump out.
Doesn't really jump out at you, really. So I mean, there's got to be a little deeper than that, wouldn't you say?
Well, and there is, because if you look into it a little bit, that the name Walter is a German name that is actually derived from an old High German word that basically means ruler of the army or the general.
Yeah.
On another note, that Walter versus Pete Dunne match from a little while back.
Man.
I know it's not even, but
It's not current, but let's just throw back to that. It was Cardiff.
That was
Takeover Cardiff. It was on August 31st. It was the same day actually as All Out. So it kind of, maybe got brushed
under the radar a little bit
of some people. So, I mean, you might not have really gotten into it and watched it at that time. Maybe forgot about it. Go back and watch that match, even just for that match.
I got to agree. That just came into my mind. We weren't even going to talk about it, but that was one of the best matches I've literally seen over the last. I don't even know, number of years.
For sure.
It's one of the best matches, most enjoyable matches I've seen in a long time.
It was pretty long.
Yeah, it was about an hour almost.
It was about 45 minutes maybe, but don't let that scare you away because it was actually a really, really good match.
If you're into that style of wrestling, or even if you're not, I totally recommend checking it out. So I just want to put it out there that anybody listening, if you haven't seen it, Walter versus Tyler Bate, absolutely outstanding match.
But again, Jericho just being Jericho, so...
Oh yeah, it's just poking fun, but
he's one of the masters. I mean, as good as he is in the ring on his promos, he's also good on social media, so...
And not only that, but I think another part of it that's kind of underappreciated is the fact that Chris Jericho himself has over 1 million or 3.5 million followers.
Yeah.
For him to mention Walter is giving Walter the rub.
It is.
And as much as people are saying, oh yeah, well, Jericho's a heel, he's playing the heel, and he's giving him the rub by mentioning his name.
He likes Walter, I'm sure. I'm sure he's a big fan of Walter.
Right. I definitely think that he's putting it out.
So,
he's giving him the rub, so I think it's awesome.
Another breaking news earlier this week, according to Mike Johnson of Pro Wrestling Insider, John Morrison has signed with World Wrestling Entertainment. A little bit later on that day, after Pro Wrestling Insider made that news story, John Morrison replied on Twitter, "Thanks for the heads up, ProWrestlingInsider.com. Please let me know when I'm signed with AEW or Ring of Honor." So John Morrison taking a little bit of a little pot shot back at Pro Wrestling Insider, maybe.
Oh yeah, absolutely trying to throw him off the trail with the red herring.
Yeah,
I am actually pretty sure that he signed from all intents and purposes.
Yeah, I'm 99.9% sure that.
Well, the Holy Grail. So you had both PWI Insider or PW Insider and
the Wrestling Observer also reporting.
Both reported and both have independently verified it. So when there's smoke, there's fire, as you say. So John Morrison, I would think, is signed back up again with the WWE. Absolutely. He's just trying to throw people off the trail, as you said.
Yeah.
But that leaves it open. How is he going to make his debut?
Where does John Morrison fit into plans right now? I mean, he could go to Raw. He could go to SmackDown. He could even go to NXT.
Absolutely, and you brought up a real interesting scenario off camera here, off microphone here. He could get drafted. John Morrison is a big enough name, and a name from the past, that he could easily get drafted to one of the brands
for sure,
and get a pop and a surprise return.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see how John Morrison does make his way back into the fold, if he does indeed do so. Which again, I think that there's a pretty good chance that it is happening, but you never can tell. But I couldn't help but notice over the weekend that they used the Fiend in promotional materials for both.
They have, yeah.
On Fox and on NBC, and flashing on the screen, and people that aren't watching wrestling have been reacting to this, and it's pretty impressive the amount of promo that they're putting out there for this move.
I was actually on Reddit that day, and it was on Sunday, and just regular people watching NFL that day. Posting on Reddit, "Someone clipped that shit. What was that?" Another user said, "Okay, I am not the only person who saw that." WWE Fan 01 says, "Did you see that scary face?"
I wonder if he knew what it was. WWE Fan 01.
:23 says, in all caps, "Yo, WTF, was that a horror clip?" Someone replies, "I'm literally shaking RN." So, I mean, the mainstream audience is getting that little bit of taste.
Absolutely.
And I love it, man.
Oh, yeah, me too. Well, it's been a long time. I mean, as someone who's been watching wrestling, obviously, for a long, long time, to hear it being spoken about, and there are some snickers There are
absolutely. There's always going to be detractors and critics and people that are going to look at the negative side of it.
Who's that type of thing? Like some of the sports commentators aren't sure who they're talking to or about. But I mean, that has to be understood. But at the same time, it's fun to see your favorite wrestlers being featured on NFL football games and whatnot, and seeing the commercials and the promos during the football games. It makes it have a big time feel that it hasn't had in a long time. It really does. I mean, as simple as that sounds, it really is a type of exposure that WWE and wrestling in general hasn't had in a long, long time.
Fox has done a really good job actually with the promotion for WWE, involvement in the NFL games and stuff. I seen Becky Lynch was on a little bit of a blurb this past weekend. It was pretty cool. So I mean, overall, it's just really cool to see him actually on network TV.
WWE Brawlin' Buddies! They're bigger than big and ready for battle. Hit 'em, throw 'em, headlock and slam 'em. Brawlin' Buddies are bringing it.
Dad?
Oh, it's on! Brawlin' Buddies talk smack with real superstar voices.
The champ is here!
And he's going down!
Anywhere, anytime.
Brawlin' Buddies want to brawl!
See what you got.
And your face!
You want some? Come get some.
WWE Brawlin' Buddies figures, each sold separately.
Over the weekend, also, New Japan Pro Wrestling held an event at the Hammerstein Ballroom in New York City. Fighting Spirit Unleashed was going down Friday night, and they ran into a little bit of a snafu. Chris Egg, did you hear about that?
Well, yeah. So word on the street is that in New York City and New York in general, the commission has a stipulation that you have to have a full medical evac unit, basically paramedic unit, on hand for bell time to start the event.
The Athletic Commission.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah. So New Japan thought they had this taken care of, but and figured that the ambulance must have been stuck in traffic or whatever the case may be. But turns out that someone had phoned the ambulance company and told them that this New Japan show was canceled, and canceled the ambulance. So basically, it was an act of sabotage by somebody towards New Japan.
Yeah. I mean, there was word going around that night that like people were kind of pointing fingers, and there was a little bit of whispering and stuff. There's a guy, Matt Coon, who does a podcast. Follow him on Twitter and stuff. Matt Coon. Him and his son went to the event, and he said he was talking actually to a New Japan Pro Wrestling talent, and they had a feeling who it was, but he didn't really divulge exactly who it was. But a lot of people are saying that it might be someone from Ring of Honor, because the relationship between New Japan and Ring of Honor has been strained lately. Obviously, anyone who's following along with it knows that since the G1 Supercard this past March, April was it? I'm sorry, turned out to be a bomb. Honestly, really, really soured the relationship between New Japan and Ring of Honor. So I'm not saying they did, but I'm saying they could. Mm-hmm. So I don't condone it if it is, but at the same time, it's just an interesting little tidbit this week. If you haven't heard,
a little dirty play by somebody along the lines. So whatever's going on there's something interesting going on.
For sure. Some big news came out last night, actually, during the prime times of Raw last night. TSN apparently got the deal with AEW to show Dynamite live on Tuesday nights. The Wrestling Observer and Pro Wrestling Insider made that report, but TSN actually hasn't come out and said it themselves yet. So we'll see what happens there. What do you think of that one?
Well, we'll see. As you said, waiting on the official confirmation from TSN that AEW has been picked up. But I'm glad to see that it has been picked up on a national level here in Canada. For those who like to follow along now, I do have a feeling that it is going to probably be on one of the numbered TSN channels.
I mean, there's 5 TSN channels, so if you go to your TSN guide or your guide on your TV and you look up your TSN channels, you'll see that there is 5 channels, and I mean, I think a couple of them are duplicates. Now, if I'm not mistaken, it's TSN 3 and TSN 5, which are showing the same program. So it could possibly slate in there in one of those slots.
Well, because on Wednesday nights has always traditionally been Wednesday night hockey.
Yeah, on the
TSN.
main. Yeah.
So that would be on the main network. We would think he is usually what would be on the main TSN main channel.
Yeah, once we get into the hockey season now, I'm sure they'll probably dominate that TSM 1 slot. So, like we said, there's 4 other options, and AEW will probably fit into one of those.
Yeah, and I mean,
thank God TSN came through, apparently.
that's right.
We've yet to confirm it with TSN, but as we said, these other sources have. So, we'll see tomorrow night.
So another piece of news coming up this week, we noticed that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who had been rumored for the SmackDown debut, finally came out this week and confirmed that he will indeed be there, tweeting out, "Finally, I come back home to my WWE universe. This Friday night, I'll return for our debut of SmackDown live at Fox TV. There's no greater title than the hashtag the People's Champ, and there's no place like home. Tequila on me after the show. If you smell SmackDown." Hashtags. So The Rock is heading back to his namesake program, of course. So it's only fitting that The Rock would be there.
That's huge.
Oh, absolutely.
Huge name. And I mean, they've got a lot of names announced already, but The Rock is really that cherry on top, for sure.
So last night, we saw the return of, well, not the return
The season premiere.
The season premiere of Monday Night
WWE.
Raw. With the debut of a new set of announcers, return of everyone's favorite Pyro. So it was a bit of a new look for the program.
The set was interesting.
The set I liked. It didn't blow my mind, but at the same time, I didn't dislike it. I enjoyed the...
It wasn't a drastic change, but it was cool.
It's different enough, in my opinion. Enough to be like, okay, well, it's new. You can tell it's something different. It is different.
Some people poked fun at it on Twitter and stuff and said it looked like a little bit of a half pipe. Maybe the American Ninja Warrior wall.
Well, which it kind of does, but at the same time, it is...
But it's a modern look. It's cool.
Exactly. A little bit outside the box. I think it's cool. And it will become easy for different superstars to utilize for their entrances and different things. It'll come into play, I think. But it Return to Pyro, a great addition. Really makes a huge difference.
It does, actually.
As much as people would think it wouldn't or it would be a simple thing, it makes a huge difference because it gets people a little bit excited. There's a little bit of...
wakes you up.
Yeah.
Gives you a little bit of adrenaline.
It is. Yeah, it's a bit of an adrenaline.
For anyone that's been to a WWE event, I mean, you see it. It's pretty cool. It's like an explosion. It's fireworks. And for someone like Brock Lesnar who comes out and swings his arms up in the air and puts them down, I mean, that little bit of pyro adds a lot in my opinion.
Absolutely. The fact that he continued to do his pyro call out with no pyro for all these years was kind of silly. That's like if CAIN, I don't think CAIN was doing his fire thing with no fire.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to see the pyros back. Like I said, it's a simple thing, but I do like it a lot. As for the new Raw announce team, we had Vic Joseph, Dio Madden, and the returning Jerry the King Lawler. So, for me personally, in my opinion, I liked the new...
they were good.
I thought it was fine. I liked the fact that it was a new voice. I did find that Vic Joseph sounds almost identical to Michael Cole. Like a younger version of Michael Cole who hasn't yet perfected that WWE shill mode that Michael Cole can do so seamlessly. And I'm not one of these people who hates Michael Cole by any means. He's great at his job, but he's so meticulous with the constant barrage of plugs and social media plugs.
Just buzzwords.
Oh my God! It's to a point now. It's like Michael Cole's. Yeah, but it's like he's on autopilot.
Yeah, it's like robot talk.
He's been doing it so long.
Yeah,
and he's good at it, and he does what Vince likes. So he just does the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Every single time, every week, and he speaks in the same tone of voice, uses the same catchphrases, and it's boss times and whatnot. Like all the things that Michael Cole does and says is because he's been told this is what I want you to do and say,
right? And
he's good at his job. But I appreciated the difference in tone. What did you think?
I enjoyed him. I didn't think it was bad by any means, but it was a refreshing change from the Corey Graves and Renee Young bickering and the Michael Cole boss time and what. I thought Dio Madden was a little rough at times. He came off a little bit maybe nervous, and I can't blame him there. It's his first time live on Raw. He's only done 205 a few times, I'm pretty sure, a handful of times. So, just give him some time. I'm sure he'll come around. Vic Joseph's good. He filled in for Corey Graves there a few weeks back. And the King actually was in my opinion, the MVP last night, surprisingly.
Well, the King kind of went into his playbook, and again, much like what I said about Michael Cole, he can say the same for the King. He can sleepwalk through a Raw at this point.
Yeah, he definitely led the ship. He was the captain last night, for sure.
Absolutely, and he did. He kept the guys on track, fed them lines.
He got superstars over, too, and what was going on with the Becky Lynch and the Sasha went on and stuff. Like, the King, some people criticize him because he's old. He's been around the block. I'm willing to give the King a chance here.
Well,
at first I was a little trepidatious, a little cautious. I thought, Jerry Lawler, whatever. But at the same time, I see the reason why he's there. His role he's going to fill. He's going to lead the ship with these guys. These young guys are going to come up and they're going to find their way, but Jerry Lawler's going to be there to help them along. We'll go down through what happened last night on Raw. We're not going to go down a full in-depth review by any means. We got a top 5, though. Let's run down top 5. So, number 1, beginning of the show, Brock Lesnar came out and interrupted Rey Mysterio, who came out to the ring, and ended up attacking Rey Mysterio and Rey Mysterio's son, Dominic, who was sitting ringside. So what do you think about that little exchange there?
Well, I thought it was just great, I got to say.
It was intense.
It was super intense.
It was intense.
I got to say kudos to Dominic for doing a great job. I mean, how hard is it to sell getting thrown by Brock Lesnar around the ring?
For anyone who watched it,
it was brutal.
They had this low kind of camera angle behind Dominic, who was in the front row, of course, and Brock came towards him, and that angle, man, just made Brock look like way more of a monster than he actually is, but it was like Godzilla coming over.
But I will say that Brock looked like he was in wonderful shape.
He was.
If you will.
Yep.
He looks like he's back on his WWE regime.
He's on his good diet.
Yeah, he's back on his WWE diet as opposed to the UFC diet.
But
so he's much more monstrous.
If you never watched Raw, definitely go and check out the WWE YouTube channel and look for that clip because it was worth it. It was definitely the highlight of last night.
Oh, absolutely. It was a beatdown for the ages. It was really he really threw around poor old Dominic. He did a great job selling the beating from Lesnar. I really think.
Yeah, Dominic Mysterio, 2022 Dominic Mysterio. Just sounds funny to me. I don't know.
You just call him Dominic without any share.
Yeah, but 22 years old, or as the King called him, that teenager.
A teenager,
multiple times. Yeah. But it was cool. Check it out. Number 2, little MizTV session. This is where the show kind of went off the rails for me personally. The first hour of the show, good. It was great, actually. But when we got to the segment with The Miz, who had former WWE champions and Hall of Famers, Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan out there, it went a little AWire, in my opinion, at first. It seemed like good old Nate had maybe a little nip or two. And Hogan and Flair had a little back and forth, which resulted in The Miz and saying that they were going to go head-to-head in Saudi Arabia at the Crown Jewel event and be coaches for a 5-on-5 tag team match. What did you think of this segment?
I'm going to be totally honest. I'm not a big fan of this segment. I think Ric Flair has passed his peak, past his expiration date, and really doesn't belong out there anymore. I didn't enjoy that segment. Some people thought I was nostalgic. I thought it was kind of...
I don't mean to cut you off there, but how can it be nostalgic and really have that oomph to it? I know they're trying to fill these segments and times and stuff, and they're building up. This is a big week. But these guys were on Raw, what, a month ago?
Yeah.
A couple of weeks ago?
That's right.
Hogan's been out there a couple of times. I mean, there's no big appeal to him, in my opinion, anymore, to be trotting these guys out over and over.
And it was super anticlimactic. But yeah,
overall,
it totally came off to me in that way, like you said.
It was a bit of a stinker. So, number 3, we got the new Firefly Funhouse. What did you think of this one?
I always find the Firefly Funhouse is pretty interesting. It's the most fresh thing that's been going on in wrestling for a long, long time again. Another one of the things that's kind of reignited my interest in wrestling, and WWE in particular, has been the Bray Wyatt Fiend character. Big, huge fan. So this particular version of the Funhouse was just what you would call a standard edition.
Yeah, it probably wasn't one of the best.
It wasn't. There wasn't a whole lot going on. It was just pretty much reinforcing that there's a match going up in Hell in a Cell. That character is just really on a whole other level.
Oh, it's definitely, in my opinion, and I'm sure yourself, the top thing they got going right now.
Oh, by a landslide.
Yeah.
And that's like the question of, is it too much too soon to push the Fiend? And
are they going to burn out his character? Are they going to overexpose him? Or, there's a lot of questions. And heading into Hell in a Cell, I don't know exactly what they're going to be doing.
Me neither. That's the
intrigue.
But at the same time, I would rather see them give it a shot with somebody who's hot. Like Bray Wyatt right now is the hottest thing in wrestling, and I don't think anybody can really dispute that. And in WWE.
Well, WWE honestly is notorious for not really striking when the iron's hot.
Precisely. Like Braun Strowman last year, or maybe 2 years ago, was the hottest thing on the planet.
Right.
And could have had the rocket strapped to him.
And that brings us to number 4. But yeah, no Braun Strowman last night on Monday Night Raw.
Well, I mean, he's selling up the beatdown from the Fiend from last week, so that was the right move in my opinion, because especially if they were going to do what they did and have the Fiend make an appearance, to have Braun not come looking for his retribution could somewhat damage the in some degree. But not only that, just selling the beating from the Fiend for someone as monstrous as old Braun to have to take a week off, I think it just speaks volumes for how seriously they're taking the Fiend character.
Yeah, I don't know, man. The ending of Raw last night really took me aback, man. And I'm not saying anything about the match, because the match was pretty short. It was nothing to write home about. Towards the end, I think it only went maybe 6-7 minutes. But towards the end, it was interrupted by the music. We've seen a limousine, show up a few minutes before. A white limousine. It almost took you back to 1999 Nitro. But a limousine showed up, but then later on, Bobby Lashley came out, made his return. And distracted Rusev, of course. He looked very puzzled on the stage, and I did too, as Lashley kept pointing to the back. And it seemed like a long time before the cue got there, but Lana's music played. Lana, Rusev's wife, of course, Lana. What happened next really surprised me.
Well, it really kind of came out of left field that Bobby Lashley now and Lana are a romantic item.
Oh, they went at it, man.
They kind of went at it.
Bobby really got in there.
Well,
Lana got the leg up.
But at the same time, it seemed to me that Rusev wasn't surprised. He was more kind of upset.
Man, Rusev stood there for what seemed like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Like he was trying to figure out like a quadratic equation. He was...
Who is this person? What is he doing?
Man.
I wouldn't mind, but I'm a huge Rusev fan.
Me too,
I always have been. He's got himself in terrific shape. But this is not the route that we need to be going with Rusev. The romance cuckold angle. There's already one of those going on with Mike Kanellis.
Stinks, man. Stinks. It has Paul Heyman written all over it all the same.
Oh, yeah.
That style. Anyways, overall, Raw last night, its big season premiere, I kind of give it 2.5 out of 5. It wasn't really a big,
I give it a 3 out of 5. I thought the opening was cool.
I love the Brock Lesnar and DOMINICK stuff at the beginning.
Yeah.
And there was an AJ Styles and Cedric Alexander match. It was pretty good. AJ Styles went over again, but
Viking Raiders took on the original club in a good match.
It was decent, yeah.
But, beat them in 10 minutes again. So, it's like those guys, the OC, got to push for a couple of weeks, and now they're back to jobber status. Right. They got makeup and their new look.
You had Cesaro and Ricochet in a match, and that's been done.
It seemed like it was kind of an impromptu match.
You had Natalya and Lacey Evans. That match has been done. So, overall, the show itself wasn't like a fresh restart. But at the same time, they got a draft coming up.
Precisely.
So let's be a little,
give them a little time.
Patient here.
Like I said, they're debuting a new look and kind of giving the announcers a dry run. There's going to be 2 separate shows in another week or 2. So we're going to see how it's all going to work out.
We'll see how it all pans out. All right, tomorrow night, the big head-to-head AEW premiere on TNT versus NXT live on USA Network. Big head-to-head Wednesday Night Wars again. What do you think, Craig?
Oh, well, I'm very curious to see, like I said earlier in the package, how AEW is going to do. NXT has over his first couple of weeks, kind of did your 1.6, 1.2 kind of number. So I would think that AEW will be aiming for that number at least. If they could get that number, I think they'd be pleased.
If I had to make a prediction,
yeah,
I don't think they're going to crack 1 million, man.
I think it'll be slightly below 1 million, in my opinion, as well.
We're looking at maybe 900.
Yeah. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Now, this is one instance where I would love to be wrong.
Me too.
I'd like to see them really light the world on fire and become a hot promotion. Well, we'll see. We'll see exactly how it goes down. I mean, I am curious. But with that said, with the choice given to me at this particular moment in time, if I were to choose between the AEW show or the NXT show, I would watch NXT.
So tomorrow night at 9:30, you're tuning into NXT.
Yes, that will be well. You know something? Let me take that back. This is a debut of a new program.
It is.
So I'm kind of curious. Yes, so
That's the intrigue.
I am going to tune into the Dynamite tomorrow night. So I'll correct myself and take it back. I will watch Dynamite.
In your queue, you're going to prioritize AEW over NXT
for tomorrow night, just because I want to see what the new product is all about.
Okay, so let me run down real quick what the matches will be. Opening up the card apparently will be Cody versus Sammy Guevara. Nyla Rose will take on Rio in the AEW Women's Championship match. We also got Adam Hangman Page versus Pac.
Oh yeah.
MJF versus Brandon Cutler. And in the main event, we got Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks versus Chris Jericho and 2 mystery partners.
Ooh, mystery partners.
The mystery partners, the intrigue.
So as for prediction, as for the mystery partner, I think the easy money or the safe money is looking at LAX.
I think Vegas is putting LAX on top of the board there. I can't think of anyone else, honestly. It would be cool if they made a big splash and maybe snuck under the fence and snatched someone. But I can't really see anyone right now that would really light the world on fire.
Yeah, I don't know about the contractual situations, how things would go on. I don't think there's anyone who could really light the world on fire, but we mentioned earlier that Jon Moxley is not currently scheduled for anything. He could make his return.
I'm pretty sure he's cleared now to come back. They said October, so
he could work as a mystery partner for sure. That would get a nice big pop.
Yeah.
Just speculating, trying to think of somebody else who's out there. I kind of threw the name like of a Jack Swagger, who's someone who's out there right now. I'm thinking that I'm hoping AEW is trying to not fall into the trap of former WWE guy automatic signee coming in, but we'll see how that works out.
I don't know, man. I'm cautiously optimistic on the whole product. I haven't really been following along with these being the elite videos and whatnot, but I have seen the shows that they have come out with. But overall, man, I don't know. There's just something that doesn't sit well with me with AEW. Do you maybe have something to add to that?
Like you said, something you can't really put my finger on, but there is something that is missing or lacking.
Yeah.
And maybe that those blanks will be filled in. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe not the problem, but that's the solution. Just give it a chance once the show comes on and I see exactly what we're dealing with. Then I will be excited, as opposed to our NXT program.
NXT I'm looking forward to. They got a stacked show coming up on Wednesday, highlighted by Adam Cole versus Matt Riddle in the NXT Championship match.
That should be a terrific match.
Should be great. Looking forward to that one. Shayna Baszler's defending her NXT Women's Championship against Candice LeRae. That's going to be a big match there, in my opinion.
Match, absolutely.
Shayna Baszler, man, has been kicking ass in NXT, but right now, her time is up. I think Candice LeRae is going to win that title.
You think so?
I do, because, as we said earlier, the draft is coming up.
Yep.
Shayna Baszler, man, she's going to Raw or SmackDown.
Yeah, I hope you're right. I hope you're right on that, and I think you're right. So I have to agree with you there.
Undisputed Era versus Street Profits in Tag Team Championship match. Hopefully Undisputed Era retains, because I'm big fans of those guys. Street Profits, not so much.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the Street Profits either. The forced cool guy thing is cringeworthy more often than not, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's like
Crime Time all over again.
Basically, exactly. But hey, whatever. But I do think that they will be moving on or lose that match. I don't think they're going to get the belts back.
But that's 3 big title matches there. And I believe Johnny Gargano versus Shane Thorne is also added on there. So, I mean, that's a takeover quality event.
That's a pretty good event, yeah. So, like you said, we'll see how AEW can stack up against the NXT. But as somebody who's watched all NXT specials, I don't watch the NXT on a weekly basis.
You haven't watched the last 2 weeks?
I've seen bits and pieces. I've seen I did see the debut. I didn't see all of last week.
Yeah.
I did watch the debut.
Should watch the Donovan Dijakovic
And
versus
Keith Lee. I saw that. I did see that match actually, and it was amazing.
Yeah,
Keith Lee is really off the
He
chain.
is. He's
Well,
really
so is Donovan Dijakovic as well. Really great. The match was really something else.
Yeah. They've done a good job. I mean, there hasn't been a lot of like character work and promos and stuff on NXT so far, which I can't say I'm not complaining. But overall, the action in the ring has been good. Tomorrow night, man, I'm looking forward to this one. I think I'm going to go with NXT tomorrow night live, and I'll watch the AEW after, probably on the replay. But earlier today, I made a post in the Wrestling Shed Facebook group, so I asked all those shed heads out there to delve into the mailbag and send out a few questions. Steve Clark asks, do you live in a shed? The Wrestling Shed name, do you understand the meaning, or do you even know if there's a meaning behind the name of the Wrestling Shed?
Well, I don't really know, to be precise. No. I don't know what the significance is.
So a couple of people asked me, they're like, well, why is it called Wrestling Shed? Like, what's the shed? Like, and I just thought, like, when I always like a little discussion with wrestling and people online and stuff through the years. If you're a longtime fan or a new fan, you'll know that we shoot the shit about wrestling, and I figure what better place to go and shoot the shit with your buddies than out in the shed and just, talk about what's going on. Number 2, it's a little bit of a tribute. A little bit of tribute to a local Newfoundland broadcaster, Big Tom. Big Tom was known on K-Rock as having the shed. Myself and Craig here were big fans of Big Tom for many years, and unfortunately in 2012 he passed away. So I always liked the shed, and as a little nod to him as well, the Wrestling Shed was born.
And there you have it.
There you have it. That's the mailbag for this week. Keep them coming.
Keep the questions coming.
We got tons here, but I mean, we're running out of time. On Thursday we'll hit up a couple more maybe, but thank you all for listening. You have anything you want to add there, Craig?
No, it's been a great return to the Wrestling Shed. We'll be back Thursday with another episode.
Do you have any plugs? Do you have any appearances coming up? Are you going to be shopping at Dominion later on tonight?
Might be shopping at Dominion. Might catch me out and about.
Catch me at the McDonald's drive-thru, folks. Thanks for tuning in, the Wrestling Shed.
And until next time, we will see you in the ring.